We're going to remind all the witnesses to leave a witness form. We're going to limit the testimony to only 2 minutes. We'll just flip-flop back and forth between opposition and in favor of, starting with in favor of. So, Representative Baker, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. For the record, State Representative Ben Baker, 160th District, Newton County, and appreciate the opportunity to present House Bill 995, which is a really simple bill, literally just 2 paragraphs in this bill. And the impetus of this is the fact that there are municipalities and even states, mostly blue states that are doing this, that are completely banning the sale of live pets. And so this bill preempts local control and says that you cannot prohibit or effectively prohibit a licensed, law-abiding pet shop who is abiding by current statute that we have, which is heavily regulated in our state, to operate in those municipalities. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Senator McCreary, do you have any questions? Okay. All right. First witness to speak in favor of the bill, please come forward. Remind you got 2 minutes. Do we have anybody in favor?
My name is Brian Winslow. I am the Vice President of Animal Welfare, and I am of Petland, and I am in support of HB 995. Petland is a family business. Our company and our franchisees abide by standards exceeding state and federal laws for sourcing of our animals. We have 6 stores in Missouri. Petland has had a footprint in Missouri for over 30 years. These are all independently owned private small businesses, not a big corporation. All these small businesses have an A rating by the Better Business Bureau. These stores alone in Missouri represent more than 200 employees. Because our business involves animals, it's no surprise that animal rights groups such as the Humane Society of the United States routinely attack our company. What you will hear from animal rights groups is that Petland purchases from puppy mills. This is a false statement. The truth is these animal activists don't want pet stores to exist and has nothing to do with where we source our animals. Bills are popping up around the country trying to eliminate great small family-friendly small animals, birds, and reptiles from pet stores. Cancel culture activists promote and push retail pet sale bans to supposedly eliminate puppy mills. However, it remains a fact that activists cannot point to a single puppy mill that is closed due to the passage of any pet store ban. Instead, pet store bans actually promote the use of underground pet trading. We know this because it's what happened in California after they banned pet stores. 93% of the stores selling pet puppies went out of business. 17 of the 21 animal and consumer protection provisions that were state law were eliminated, and reported puppy scams increased by 350%. And by the way, puppies are flown in and driven into California every single day to meet the demand. Illinois also passed a statewide... Okay, that's
your 2 minutes. Appreciate your testimony. Is there any questions for the witness? Seeing none?
Turn it up to them.
Yeah, you just leave it there on the... Yeah. First witness in opposition, please come forward.
Thank you, sir. Cody Atkinson with the Humane Society of the United States. Unfortunately, this bill does not allow for any consumer welfare protections. We have noted in the past in the House Committee that the state of Iowa, in fact, sued Petland over a 180% interest rate they were charging for the payment plan of one of their puppies. There is no public health exception for this bill. Petland has been the source of multiple disease outbreaks. There are no animal welfare exceptions. It was noted earlier that they don't buy from puppy mills, but we have very clear evidence, including certificates of veterinary inspections, showing that they purchase from the only, or at least the first, puppy mill, as we would call them, offender of the Animal Welfare Act, resulting in 120 felony charges and the relinquishment of over 500 dogs. 1 out of every 20 dogs that they sell, according to their own in-house insurance, claimant adjuster, or whatever you would call it, admits that their dogs are either diseased or in need of veterinary attention. There are claims that this is well regulated, and it is true that the state has robust laws. Unfortunately, they do not have robust enforcement. There was a case in which Attorney General Bailey recently shut down a puppy mill that we would call, again, where the inspections were declined 40 times. It took almost a decade to shut it down. This comes at a tremendous burden for local prosecutors, our state, local veterinarians, and shelters. It's noted that it is Petland, if they are unable to sell puppies, would go out of business. That's simply not true. They are the only one of the top 30 pet stores in the nation.
Okay, that's 2 minutes.
So thank you.
Any questions for the witness? I got one. So you say that they're responsible for all these disease outbreaks. What diseases would those be?
It's a complicated name, but I'd be more than happy to show you. It was.
Yeah, I would love to see that, because I would like to see the comparison between these so-called disease outbreaks between like Petland and like your local humane society or animal shelter.
Well, I would know,
because I
that
bet those are pretty high too.
Shelters are legally mandated to exist and take in pets. They do not perform the act of purchasing pets for later sell.
They're still supposed to be vaccinated before they're adopted.
They are, or they will be shut down or fined by the state. Yeah.
Any other questions for the witness? All right, seeing none.
Thank you.
Next witness to testify in favor of the bill. And before you start, we're gonna we've got a quorum here, so we're gonna take roll and we're gonna do a quick executive session. Sure. Senate Committee Emerging Issues being called to order. I should call the roll.
Senator Brown.
Here.
Senator Moon. Senator Gannon. Here. Senator Koenig. Here. Senator McCreary. Here. Senator Razor. Senator Schroer.
We have quorum. Make a motion to move into executive session. Do I have a second? I have a second. We're in executive session. I now move that House Bill 730 be brought before the committee. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is before the committee. I move that House Bill 730 be voted out of committee. Do pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. This is Representative Brown presented House Bill 730 last week. This bill provides that no county, municipality, or political subdivision shall impose a moratorium on eviction proceedings. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I should call the roll to vote House Bill 730 out of committee. Do pass.
Senator Brown.
Aye.
Senator Moon. Senator Gannon. Senator Koenig. Senator McCreary. No. Senator Razor. Senator Schroer. 3-1.
By your vote of 3-1, the motion carries. I now make a motion to move out of executive session and resume a regular hearing. Do I have a second? I have a second. We are out of executive session. Whenever you guys are ready, go ahead.
Okay.
You got 2 minutes.
Gotcha. Hi, I'm Samantha Boyle. This is my husband, Ryan. We have 3 Petlands. We have 1 in Joplin. We have 2 in Northwest Arkansas. We employ over 75 amazing employees. We employ 30 in Joplin alone. We've contributed over $1.2 million in sales tax revenue to the state of Missouri alone since we've opened. At Petland, we strive to provide a safe and clean environment with the highest standards of animal care. Petland works very hard to hold our partner breeders accountable, just like our state holds us accountable through regulation. Our breeder families are all licensed with the USDA, each individual state's Department of Agriculture or Health Department, or are responsible professional hobby breeders. Our store will not purchase any animals from anyone with any violations. We hold breeders accountable to only provide the highest standards of animal care possible. We are here today to protect our business because we experienced animal rights activists try to close our business by spreading misinformation to local officials about who we are. Right before we opened our store in Fayetteville, Arkansas, we were blindsided by the city with proposed legislation that would have immediately put us out of business. We have over $1 million invested in that business. And we're terrified today that we could lose it all in an instant because local elected officials were misinformed about how pet stores actually operate and the strict laws that we have to abide by. Ordinances are pushed on purpose to cancel our enterprise and stop our primary business of selling healthy pets. As you already know, Arkansas House Bill 1591 was signed by the governor last week, enacting a local government shall not pass an ordinance, resolution, or regulation that prohibits a retail pet store from acquiring or selling an animal from a cattery, kennel, or dealer defined in an Arkansas state law. You will hear people tell you what they want to shut down puppy mills. However, pet sale bans do the opposite. By banning the sale of puppies from regulated and licensed stores, they are going to go unregulated and go underground. These are the real and licensed breeders and puppy mills. We are here today in support of House Bill 995 to proactively protect our community pet store from operating when we comply to all of state and federal laws and protecting us from animal rights activists whose stated goal is elimination of all private animal sales, including pets, service dogs, and cattle.
Okay, that's your 2 minutes.
Thank you so much.
But you can leave any witness on either side of the issue. You can leave your written testimony, and it'll be submitted into the public record as long as you have a witness form filled out. Are there any questions for these witnesses?
Yeah, I have the notes page. Yes, did you have any questions for me?
I have one. What do you think the true motivation behind this ordinance is?
I just feel like other entities look at us kind of like the enemy. They want to weaponize local municipalities against pet stores, when all reality, I feel like we all have the same objective. We all want animals to find responsible, loving homes. You know, for us as a pet store owner, we don't want to put shelters out of business. We don't want to put humane societies out of business. We want exactly what we want for our animals. We want them to find homes.
Right.
It's not the animal's fault that happens. I think responsible pet ownership is really the key, and education and working together to find those animals' homes is really the key.
Yeah, it seems to be a trend even in rural Missouri now, just like in our hometown where I'm from in Rolla. The shelters are partnering with these low-cost veterinary clinics to where you can get your dog or cat spayed or neutered, what have you, for literally, pennies on the dollar. What a private practitioner out in the community that's been there for years, can provide that same service for what, they wouldn't be able to keep the lights on for what they charge. So anyway, are there any other questions for the witness? Thank you. Next witness to testify in opposition, please come forward.
I am the registered lobbyist for the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. We would like to go on record as opposing this. We believe that this bill is a usurpation of local control. Who best to make these determinations as to whether or not a pet store is fitting in the community, doing what it needs to be doing, and adhering to the proper regulations than the folks there on the ground next to it. So in the interest of time, I will keep it short.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the witness? Right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next witness to testify in favor of the bill.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Karen Strange. I'm president of Missouri Federation of Animal Owners. The Department of Agriculture, under the Animal Care Facilities Act, licenses and inspects pet stores, shelters, and rescues in Missouri with no difference in the facilities. We do not support ordinances restricting the sale of breeder-produced pets from pet stores while allowing the sale of shelter and rescue animals from the same location. We're having that in the lake area where I live, that oftentimes facilities will set up and adopt out or sell rescue and shelter animals, but not allow pet stores. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you. Next witness to testify in opposition.
Bob Baker with the Missouri Alliance for Animal Legislation, and we're opposed to it. We think that this bill goes too far. It overreaches. It doesn't make any exception to allow counties to even regulate for consumer protection, public health, and welfare if it affects their business. And what is going to determine what negatively affects their business? Is it a decrease in sales of 10%, 5%, 20%? You know, all these things are going to have to be reached out in court. And there are some good regulations out there that other states have adopted that the pet store industry fights vehemently. One, for example, we're hearing testimony that they only buy from licensed breeders, but many times these breeders are only inspected at most once a year. Many of these breeders have accumulated violation after violation. In fact, the Attorney General just shut one down that's had violations for 15 years. And so what 7 states and numerous municipalities adopted ordinances stating that pet stores can only source dogs from licensed facilities that have a threshold level of violations. The pet industry fought that vehemently, even pressured USDA to back off citing violations because they could not stay in business. And this is my concern by saying if it effectively prohibits it, if they're going to say it's too costly to buy from breeders that don't have many violations, then it's going to hurt their business and the regulation would be void. We also have problems with predatory lending practices. Some 10 states have acted ordinances just against pet stores for predatory lending practices. So what if there's an ordinance saying that you cannot, to protect consumer? And if they say, well, that's going to hurt our business, then it will be null and void. I think this just goes way too far. It takes away municipalities' ability to control whatsoever. And I'd have no problem if you want to put in there that a county would have to show cause or have a legitimate governmental reason for public health, welfare, or safety before enacting these things. We'd have no problem with that. We don't want counties passing these things on whim, just like has been testified before. But they should have that authority. When
Okay, thank you. That was 2 minutes. Are
Prove it.
there any questions for the witness? Senator McCreary.
Thank you. Could you could you expand on that idea that you just said about rather than a blanket prohibition, that there would be the ability of a local political subdivision to shut something down with cause? Can you?
Sure. I mean, I think the big concern is that all these animal rights people are against the sale of dogs and pet stores because they come from puppy mills or whatever. So what I'm saying is that as long as they can show, and the burden is on the county to show that there's a legitimate cause for enacting that ordinance, they should have the authority to do so. I mean, everything affects a business. I mean, I own a business for many years, and none of us want regulations, but if they're reasonable and they can be shown, and where the county or the municipality would have to show cause for doing it, then they should be allowed to do so. I mean, you're sending a clear message to pet stores: if this passes, do whatever you want. We can't do anything about it because all you have to do is claim it's affecting our business. It got so bad when all the 7 states, I wanted to mention this and clarify this, said you can sell dogs and cats in pet stores, but you have to source them from humane breeders. And they defined that by the number of violations that were documented on their USDA inspection reports. The industry was so up in arms about that, they forced the U.S. Department of Agriculture to stop citing and falsifying federal documents. Our organization sued the USDA over that. It's a federal offense to falsify a federal document. So they finally backed off on that. But that's just how much consternation there is and fight against any reasonable regulation. All they're saying is only buy from breeders that have a limited number of violations. And the industry fought it. And that's what's going to happen if this bill passes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the witness? All right, seeing none. Next witness to testify in favor of the bill, please come forward.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Hartman. I, along with Tom Kilmaid and his wife Mary, own 2 Petland stores in the St. Louis area. One in Lake St. Louis, which opened in 2007, and the other in Fenton, which opened just last year. We are a true small family-owned and operated business. Tom's 3 children, sister, and niece have all worked in our stores, along with my parents. We are lifelong residents of the St. Louis region. It has been a long road, but we are proud of the fact that we now have a successful business. Our Lake St. Louis store assists more than 150 customers per day and countless others who come just to play with the pets. And our Fenton store continues to grow rapidly. In total, we employ over 75 employees and contributed over $750,000 in taxes to the state of Missouri alone last year. We are here today in support of this bill. As with many other pet stores, we've been the target of animal rights activists who wish to shut us down without having any firsthand knowledge of how we operate or our high care standards. Before we even opened our doors in Fenton, activists attended numerous Board of Aldermen meetings in an attempt to prevent us from opening without any reason. A recent St. Louis Post-Dispatch editorial suggested that supporting this bill is somehow equivalent to supporting puppy mills. Nothing could be further from the truth. Brick-and-mortar pet stores like our Petland store make multiple trips to puppy breeders each year to ensure the quality of care being provided to puppies as well as the parents of those puppies. We fully support the Canine Care Certified program administered through Purdue University, which sets rigorous standards for canine care. These criteria are science-based and far exceed any other welfare standards that exist today. Proceeds from every puppy sold in our stores go to support this program. Many of you have been led to believe that we source pets from breeders operating under the radar, but that is completely false. We are fully transparent with our customers by providing the breeder information with every puppy that goes home, including USDA reports of each individual breeder showing no violations. Pictures of our breeder facilities can be found throughout the store, and the managers have many more pictures and videos on their phones to share with customers. Today we are talking about pet shops, but any other business could be next. It should be illegal for local entities to ban businesses licensed and regulated by this state based on the insistence of special interest groups. Finding the perfect pet for your family can be difficult. Having a fun, clean environment such as Petland as an option for meeting your new best friend is something that should not be taken from the
thank you.
public.
That's 2 minutes. Are there any questions for the witness? All right, seeing none. Next witness to speak in opposition to the bill, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Richard McIntosh. I'm here on behalf of the Animal Legal Defense Legislative Fund, and we won't repeat everything else that has been said. We support what the opposition has said. In answer to your question about the disease, it's Campylobacter. I believe I pronounced that right. And it says, this is off the CDC website, which I'll send to you. It says stories about a multi-state outbreak of multi-drug-resistant Campylobacter infections linked to contact with pet store puppies. It mentions Petland. I'll print the story off.
That's fine, but part of my question was, too, is I would like to see how many animal shelters and humane societies have the same problem, because I guarantee you they do. We see them in our clinic every day.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I wanted to answer that question. Also, we strongly support individualized breeders. We think that the best transaction is between a breeder and the person directly, with no one in between. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the witness? All right. Seeing none. Next witness to testify in favor of the bill. How many more witnesses do we have to testify in favor of on this bill? How many more to testify in opposition? Perfect.
Good afternoon, Senator and committee. My name is Barb York. I am a registered lobbyist with Missouri Federation of Animal Owners, and I'm also the president of a Missouri Animal Husbandry Association. In support of this bill, there were a couple of things that were brought up by one of the opposition. One is the PM worm. For us as regulated breeders, that is very derogatory, and it carries the same weight for us as the N-word. The other was that it was brought up that the cities and municipalities could not regulate if there was an issue with the pet store on the care of the animals. They are regulated by the state of Missouri, and the state of Missouri will take care of an issue if it is there. So it doesn't have to be done by everybody on the plant. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for the witness? All right, seeing none. Are there any other witnesses testifying in opposition to the bill? Okay. For informational purposes only. All right. Representative Baker, do you have any closing comments?
It's a good bill, vote yes.
All right. Thank you. Senator Hoskins, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, State Senator Denny Hoskins, representing the 21st Senatorial District, here today to present Senate Bill 697. I know the chairman and I are both needed next door, so I'm going to keep this short, and then I will probably go next door. So, Bill 697 is an act that modifies provisions relating to delivery of intoxicating liquor. There was an industry circular sent by the Division of Alcohol and Tobacco Control, which redefined their interpretation of the word shipment and delivery that was issued in January 31st of 2023. So basically they redefined and reinterpreted what the difference is between shipment and delivery is as far as it relates to intoxicating liquor. And the definition that they had was a shipment occurs when a licensee uses a common carrier to transport intoxicating liquor to a consumer at a location other than the licensed premises, and a delivery occurs when a licensee or their assigned agent transports or uses an employee or agent to transport intoxicating liquor to a consumer at a location other than the licensed premises. In the past, a shipment and delivery have been basically the same, and now, according to this new industry circular 23-01, they are different. And so what we're trying to do is just clarify that, hey, they both are the same, and return to the way that things were before January 31st, 2023.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Senator Hoskins? All right. Seeing none, first witness to testify. First of all, how many witnesses do we have to testify in favor of? Please show your hands. Opposition? Okay. We'll go back and forth, and we'll still limit it to 2 minutes, as we've got several bills to get through. So, first witness to testify in favor of, please come forward.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Senators. Thank you for the 2 minutes of your time. My name is Don Gosen. Along with my wife and I, we own Copper Mule Distillery in Herman, Missouri, bourbon distillery, located on my wife's Century Farm, which we've been raising cattle and mules for 117 years. All the corn for our bourbon comes off my family farm, which we've been growing corn for 168 years, since 1856. In our third year of operation, we provided just over $100,000 in sales tax, excise tax, payroll tax, and property taxes for our local state governments. Currently undergoing a $4 million expansion. We spent in the last 6 months $400,000 in Springfield, Missouri, $200,000 in the Kansas City area, $600,000 in Mexico, Missouri, $150,000 in St. Louis area, and $450,000 in the local Herman area. Once operational, these numbers are just going to continue. The economic wheels are going to be fed by the distillery. We will be one of Independent Stave's largest customers, paying them Missouri customers, paying them $25,000 a month alone just for our barrels. All our corn, as I said, comes off my family farm in the spent grains, with agreements with local farmers. Over 40 tons every month will go back to farmers to feed their cattle with no cost. Explaining that my wife and I are making a huge investment in Missouri, Herman, Missouri, the state we love. And this is a time when we're asking the state to make an investment in us as well. We are for this bill. We're for the shipping. We're not looking to set up internet stores and ship around the world, but when we have customers from out of state come in and they want us to ship them a bottle, or a customer in Kansas City says, hey, I couldn't make it out this weekend, can you send us a couple bottles? There's no doubt that shipping has helped the wine industry in Missouri flourish. 25 years ago, a lot of favorable legislation really helped the wine industry. I like this bill. I'd like it even better if the first page of that bill, wherever it says winery,
Thank you. That's 2 minutes.
Distillery. Thank
Are there
you.
any questions for the witness? All right. Seeing none. First witness to testify in opposition to the bill, please come forward.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Robert Pagano. I work for Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits. We are opposed, obviously, to this legislation. This proposed legislation expands the statute of 311185 to include retailers and all intoxicating liquor, and would enable retailers to ship products throughout Missouri with common carriers. Currently, statute 311385 enables in-state and out-of-state wineries that have obtained a wine direct shipper's license to ship wine directly to consumers via common carrier, UPS, DHL, FedEx. The compliance of this statute, as written, has continued to erode over the last several years. We have wineries shipping into Missouri without licenses. We have common carriers accepting deliveries deliveries from improperly licensed wineries. We have underage consumers ordering and receiving wines and spirits. Missouri ATC has tracked these non-compliant common carrier shipments for the last 5 years, and the problem is more than substantial. In February of 2022, of the 24,185 shipments in that month, wine shipments, 7,435 had a problem with them. They were either illegal or improperly. This is just not a Missouri problem, it's a national problem. Several states have purchased products from law-breaking, several states are putting illegal shipping teams in place to attempt to deal with the growing problems. Massachusetts just recently completed a study, and in that study, 96% of the digital platforms accepted orders and payment from a 15-year-old consumer. 43% of the shipments did not obtain an adult signature. 26% of the shipments were simply left at the consumer door. As I said, Missouri ATC has done an excellent job of identifying the magnitude of the problem, but simply do not have the resources to adequately deal with it. To add to the problem by adding distilled spirits as a product category.
Thank you. That's 2 minutes. Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for the witness? All right, seeing none. Next witness to testify in favor of the bill, please come forward.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Rich Aubuchon. I'm here on behalf of Fair to Retailers for Missouri for Fair Competition. We're a makeup of Brown Derby and Lucas Liquors and Gomers. We're in support of the bill. Quite frankly, we see this as returning this issue back to where we've had before. The circular that was issued in 2023. Look, if you want to send a product to a person as a gift in the mail, you can't do that today under this circular. We think that's a limitation on our business. It's still retail to consumer. We're not doing, direct ship. You may hear some arguments from opposition about, this being the end of the three-tier system, and I don't think that's the case. They're small sales. You're making them directly to the consumer, and the fact is that right now you can ship wine from out of state in Missouri to Missouri, and the common carriers are doing that today. So the fact is we're at bay for competition with outside of the state retailers sending stuff into Missouri, and we're not able to do it here in Missouri. That's a limitation to our business, and we think it's a problem. We'd love for you to fix it.
All right, that was a question I was going to have for you to clarify. So if I'm in, let's just say, Arkansas, and I want to ship a case of wine home, I can do that by common carrier.
You could.
But if I'm in Missouri, like literally across the line, you can't.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for the witness? All right. Seeing none, next witness to testify in opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I left my witness form on my chair. I'll bring it up in a little bit. I'm here today on behalf of the Missouri Beer Wholesalers Association, and we would like to go on record in opposition to this bill. As Mr. Pagano stated, currently within the Division of Alcohol and Liquor Control, first of all, they are underfunded. We did establish several years ago a fund wherein 70% of the license fees go to the division, 30% go to general revenue. But that still does not give them enough to monitor everything that goes on with 45,000 licensee alcohol licensees. So before we expand direct shipping into other areas where we go around the three-tier system, I would suggest and hope that we would look at the division and look at the shipments that are coming in of wine and other alcohol that is not really being identified. There were, I think in February of 2020, there were 10 million cases of wine that came in that were not really accounted for. So I think the state's currently losing out on a lot of tax money. And before we expand this, I hope that we take a look at what's currently going on in the state before we move forward with this. I don't know that the division is here today, but they are available to everyone if you ask of them about what's going on. But if you also read the fiscal note on this bill, it can kind of give you a history of what is happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the witness? All right, seeing none. Next witness to testify in favor of the bill. Whenever you're ready, come forward.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Andy Arnold here today on Missouri Independent Beverage Retailers Association. Our members are in the Kansas City, St. Louis, Springfield, pretty much throughout the whole state of Missouri. We do have internet locations. We do ship. We have shipped under the old rule. We are now being told we have to deliver, which is pretty much of a hardship when someone from some other part of the state calls and wants to buy a product that only Mike's KC has or Randall's has or somebody else. So we are full support of the bill.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the witness? All right. Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next witness to testify in opposition, please come forward. All right.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, staff. Tom Crawford here on behalf of Missouri Trucking Association. I represent the bulk of the folks that are doing the shipping, and a lot of what's in this bill is pushing some of those requirements down on carriers. We just want to pick the stuff up and deliver it. We don't want to have to open it and verify labels and all those kinds of information. So we'd be happy to work on folks to be able to keep shipments going. We do it with wine. We'd love to do it with more products as well. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Good. Are there any questions for the witness? All right. Seeing none. Any other witnesses to testify in favor of the bill?
Oops.
Hello, my name is Van Hawksby. I am the owner of Dogmaster Distillery in Columbia, Missouri. I'm also one of the 5 founding members of our Distillers Guild here in the state, and I just wanted to say that I am in support of this bill. It gives me and my colleagues more opportunities to build ourselves, build revenues, and generate tax revenues for within the state. We feel that there are plenty of safeguards put in place in this bill to keep people who should not have these products out of their hands. And for that reason, I feel that this is a good bill and you should vote yes for it.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for the witness? All right, seeing none. Are there any other? I don't think there's any witnesses left to testify in opposition, correct? You in favor of, Jorgen? You're in opposition? Well, you've already missed the point. Well, you can't go now. No, I'm kidding you. You missed our Petland bill.
Yep.
There was a lot of barking and growling going on about it.
I'm here on behalf of California Wines right now. Mr. Chairman, very briefly, Jorgen Schleem on behalf of California Wines. We want to ensure that folks can still order their wine in accordance with the law and still have it shipped here and not have any undue shipping restrictions. We trust UPS and FedEx and want to ensure that they can continue to ship into the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Jorgen. Are there any questions for the witness? All right, seeing none. Is there any other witnesses testify in favor of the bill? Please come forward.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us, and I appreciate the opportunity to testify. I'm Lynn Deline Weber with Edelbron Pure Distilling out of Marthasville, Missouri. I am in support of this bill with minor changes to include distilleries where wineries appear and where to include shipping and shipments where delivery and deliveries appear. We are a small distillery that depends on, we don't have a tasting room, and we depend on being able to ship to parts of the state where we can't deliver. The pandemic changed forever the marketplace for consumers. Consumers want to be able to get their products wherever they, when and wherever they want them. And this change in the interpretation of statute was overnight. It was done on December 31st, very late. It was communicated in a way that was not an industry standard, and it made it very difficult for distilleries like us to understand how we were supposed to comply. We had to pull down literally half of our website overnight to comply with this. And yet, out-of-state wineries and in-state wineries are still allowed to ship via common carrier. Distilleries out of state are allowed to ship common carrier still today. In-state Missouri distilleries are not. That creates an inequitable situation for our distilleries today. Makes it very difficult for small businesses like ours to operate. And I think that needs to be rectified. I would like your support in this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there questions for the witness? All right, seeing none. Any other witnesses testify in opposition? In favor of? For informational purposes only. Didn't he go back to it? All right. Senator McCreary, you want to take the gavel? I'm going to present my bill now. It's the most American. Ready?
We are ready. Please begin.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, I'm Senator Justin Brown, representing the senatorial 16th District. Today I'm here to present my Senate Bill 369. This states that no parking regulation or ordinance shall be enforced within 1 mile of Capitol grounds. Yeah, you're welcome. Except by a licensed peace officer. The Missouri Capitol embodies the history and resources of the state through its architecture, artworks, and materials. All 4 floors are open to the public year-round except major holidays. I have been approached by many constituents, and their biggest concern when visiting the Capitol is if they're going to get a parking ticket or not. I have heard instances where bus drivers hauling school groups are given tickets around the Capitol. There are many times a constituent will come to see me, and they have received more than one parking ticket. This bill helps to ensure that we don't have someone just driving around issuing tickets all day long and let the people park and visit their state capitol. I am glad to answer any questions.
This is just my ignorance. So right around here, does the Capitol Police patrol like the Circle Drive, and or is that?
No, it's the local municipality. Okay. Little green gators driving around.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen them.
Mm-hmm. The enemy.
Thank you, Senator. The first witness in favor of the bill, please step forward.
I can't believe you're testifying in favor of this. Yes, America.
Pro-life, pro-gun.
Yeah, America. Saving babies.
Yeah.
One ticket at a time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Scott Fun. I'm appearing on behalf of Common Sense. Folks all across this state have been constantly harassed by the government here. It is an out-of-control problem. Finally, one man, Senator Justin Brown, had the guts to stand up to him. I really think, if you think about it, how many folks in Olivet want to come talk to you? Want to just visit with their state legislature? Maybe Governor Nixon wants to bring his family to DeSoto. And he comes up, and it's a tax.
This is good. We need to get this on.
It's a tax on the First Amendment. The biggest tax that I think you could do in this state is you just put a little common sense in this meter maid scam. I can't believe anybody would defend such a just blatant scam on the people of this state. Well, folks want to come for Chesterfield. You know, they want to come visit with you about whatever concerns they have. They don't want to be harassed the whole way, coming and going to and fro. Did you know these old boys wrote a ticket to school buses at the governor's mansion? These clowns wrote cops, a ticket, a cop car, a ticket. It is the most out-of-control screwball operation. Let me just pitch to page 7 here. They gave me one. As a former colleague, y'all's got a new job at the FLCIO. We're just going to take you to lunch. So the head of the county cop union comes in. We're going to pick him up. Well, we go to lunch, come back. I park in the same spot. They write me a ticket. And I'm like, they have no idea. They have no idea how long you park here. There's a person in your constituent from Chesterfield. He got 7 tickets in 3 days. And he's got a tremendous haircut. I wrote a letter. I went and said, I'd like a jury trial. And then this lady, the prosecutor, she's not really part of the scam, but it kind of falls to her. And then she guilted me and said, well, COVID, and we've got people needing trials. I was like, okay, fine. All right. Just would you talk to him? Well, I think she talked to the person at Hallmark in charge of selfies downtown. She did nothing. So I wanted it again. I go to court. they dismiss it. Dismiss the thing. So I'll show you the letter I've written recently asking for a jury trial, and I preemptively objected to them dismissing it. I tell you, it is an absolute tax on just regular folks that want to come up and see you. There is nobody I can see could ever defend this. And it's not a local control issue either. I actually think you ought to let folks do what they want. However, there's only one capital. You have to come up here. And it's also, as I know you care about the environment, how many reams of paper could we save? And the other thing I'll tell you, somebody had the idea, some clown, to buy these people contraptions. Tashara Jones ran the whole city of St. Louis, and they walked. Here, it's like if the Cubs and the head of the Titanic got together and come up with the dumbest idea they could, the city of Jefferson Parking Department says, hold my beer. They literally have people drive in the middle of the street, stop and write tickets while they're trying to worry about traffic. You could not come up with a dumber system of governance in the history of mankind if you tried. I challenge you. Please try.
Well, thank you. Your time is up. Sadly.
It feels like it's halftime. We're 10 points down.
Is there anybody that has questions for our witness? Any committee members? I'm surprised.
I'll answer any question.
Well, as someone who just paid a $30 ticket a week or two ago, I really appreciate you speaking out.
You have one person that cares about you in this town. Yeah.
I have one question for the bill sponsor. So you sit on budget, don't you?
Yeah.
So, one possible solution is to build a bigger Senate garage over here where a portion of that could go for the public.
I don't disagree. I'm actually getting ready to head over there in a minute. I may mention that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much one of those garages would cost, but it would certainly, if you could have a couple levels that is dedicated for, constituents coming in, then maybe the parking wouldn't be as much of an issue.
Well, you need a couple of Capitol Police to escort people through the sea of meter maids back out of town. Yeah.
Thank you for being here. Next witness, should we alternate? Let's alternate. All right. So the next witness up will be in opposition to this bill. There's somebody coming up.
This is my letter I wrote to the court.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, sir. Go ahead and proceed when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chairman and committee members. I'm Scott Spencer. I'm 3rd Ward City Councilman with the City of Jefferson. I'm here to speak in opposition to the bill. We recognize there is a parking issue. And with the recent change of leadership in the Mayor's office and City Council, and my recent appointment as Public Works Chair, we asked for some time to address your concerns. And we have and will continue to make some necessary adjustments with our parking policy. We want to be a welcoming capital city for not only our state government representatives, but for those who come to visit our capital on a daily basis. We look forward to establishing a partnership to resolve this issue and a long-term solution. So I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have. Hopefully you don't have any.
Any questions for this witness? All right, seeing none, thank you for being here.
Thank you for your time.
All right, up next, witness in support of Senate Bill 369.
Good afternoon to the committee. I'm Austin Peterson. I'm a local here. Happy tax day. I look forward to the roads all big fixed soon. Got my citation for being here today, my parking ticket. I live here. I work across the street. I'm a talk show host and an entrepreneur, and the John Deere tractors are out in full force at all times. It feels rather predatory around here in Jefferson City, especially when families or friends or neighbors want to visit. I don't think I've had a family or friend or neighbor, or my mother-in-law even came to visit, and every single one of them has gotten a parking ticket. And they don't want to come visit here because they want to sightsee and they want to do tourism things, but they know that they can't stay very long downtown, or we've got to figure out something else. It does feel like it's bad for tourism here, and certainly Jefferson City is a town that is starting to shrink. I would like to see more people wanting to come and spend time in where I live. Not everybody can afford these tickets. We're not the richest city in the state of Missouri, and these things, they do start to add up, especially for people like myself who are entrepreneurs. Just, where profit margins are very thin. So I think people are tired of being taxed to come and speak to their government, and I would like to see this bill being passed. So I am in support of this bill.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Next up, Is there anyone in opposition to this bill? Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Richard Sheets. I'm Executive Director of the Missouri Municipal League, and we would like to stand and oppose to Senate Bill 369. Parking is a local matter, and as the previous witnesses from Jefferson City indicated, they're looking at the problem that should be in the hands of the locally elected officials, because cities are different throughout the state, and that they need to tackle those problems, and that they're tackling that. And also, the common sense approach, Senator Koenig had the common sense approach, is let's build better, bigger, more garages and more spaces. But we think that's a local matter, and let the local elected officials solve the problem. I'll try to answer any questions if I can.
Any questions for this witness? Proceed.
I'd just like to say, for those of you on the budget committee and going forward, that new garage is in the renovation plans for the Capitol, so we'll be very happy for that.
Okay, thank you.
Up next, another witness in support of the bill. Please proceed when you're ready.
Better believe it. Madam Chair, Shannon Cooper today doing something that I thought I would never do, and that is testifying on behalf of myself. Again, my testimony is only for me and not for any of the clients who I represent.
How could you afford to hire yourself?
I charged it. I am uniquely qualified to support this bill. As a business owner in Jefferson City at 208 Madison Street, I have been consistently and continuously harassed by those driving the John Deere Gators. And I'm going to give you an example. One day while working, I parked out front for maybe 35 or 40 minutes, left for 2 or 3 hours, came back, parked out front again, other side of the street. Before I got in my front door, they were up on me and wrote me a ticket. And I hadn't even been there past the 90-minute time. So I called and complained, and the gentleman I spoke to was very polite, but he said, well, that 90-minute, that's all day long, so you can't move your car that whole block. So it's just, they go out of their way to come up with ideas to give you tickets. And I look forward to our new mayor doing totally away with these people. But the fact of the matter is, I've lost track of the number of clients and visitors that we've had to our office for business purposes or to come enjoy the Capitol or the governor's mansion to get out to their vehicle and have a ticket consistently on there. And it is frustrating. You look at the amount of money we have spent on that office building. We're giving nothing. The city's done nothing for us with parking whatsoever than to continue to harass Nancy, myself, our clients, and our visitors. So we think this is a great bill. We hope the committee will move it out immediately. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for this witness?
Talk to the chairman. We'll see if we can get this thing voted.
Okay. I'll look for him tonight, all right? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Of course, thank you. Next up, anyone in opposition to Senate Bill 369? Any more witnesses in support of 369? Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. Steve Carroll here on my own behalf as well. I wasn't going to testify on this bill, but after hearing everybody else, my office is just cat-a-corner from the governor's office. And I own 2 gators myself on my farm, but just something irks me about a damn gator running around the streets writing out tickets. And it's happened to me, and it's happened next door to the Blunts there. I remember she had just parked her car, and she was coming out, and they were writing the ticket. They were watching her come out and still writing the ticket. I can't tell you how many tickets I've had when I park right in front of my building. My vehicle is still running. I run inside to go get something because I got to come back to the Capitol, and boom, that gator is right there. Good for them. But I think it's bad public policy. And, I don't know how many clients that have come down that I represent that work for me, and I have them try to park it behind my building as much as possible. But they park on the street because there's not enough room. They constantly getting tickets, and I take care of them. I pay for them. But it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that hard to come and visit your state capitol. So I'm hoping maybe we can get this bill out of committee.
Me too. I bet we do.
So thank you.
Thank you for being here. Any questions for this witness? Thank you. Any more witnesses in support of Senate Bill 369?
Good afternoon. Tom Robbins for St. Louis County Police Association, very much in support of Senate Bill 369. In fact, we're discussions of building a monument for you on doing this. But the reason for law enforcement's perspective on this is that much like excessive ticketing for speeding, excessive ticketing for parking makes otherwise law-abiding citizens start to lose respect for law and law enforcement. And so that's our biggest issue with it. As a native Jefferson Cityan that's lived and worked downtown, I bet I could probably outpace anyone here on the number of tickets. So personally, I would like it too. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Any more folks in support of Senate Bill 369? Please step forward.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. James Harris. I'm here in my personal capacity as a downtown business person of 15 years. Not to repeat the same thing, but we all have examples. I think one time I parked for 5 minutes, run in and grabbed some paperwork that I had forgotten. When I came out, the ticket was being issued. I've had clients from all across the country get tickets every time they come here. I kind of like Mr. Carroll, just take the tickets and take care of them. But they'll say, I don't see this in other states. And to the first witness's comment, I would say, if you think about for the two Karens on the John Deere to go around, their staff, if you take their payroll, benefits, etc., you're probably about $110,000. So if you extrapolate that out, if your average ticket, which most of them are $5, some are $7, they're writing 9,000 to 10,000 tickets a year just to pay for their salary. And so that would just be something I'd keep in mind because it's environmentally unsound. But with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for being here. Any more witnesses in support of Senate Bill 369?
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Jackie Barget, here in a personal capacity. Just to reiterate or clarify something that Mr. Fawn said, a coworker of mine did receive 7 tickets within 3 hours. That was in 7 different parking spots, and the meter was filled the entire time. But also, our clients also have a hell of a time trying to find a spot to park to come in here to meet with you all.
Thank you for being here. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you. Anyone else in support of Senate Bill 369? Please step forward.
Good to see you again. This will never happen again. Can we get a picture? He's actually testifying in favor of one of my bills.
Cody Atkinson here in a personal capacity. It's hard enough to get folks to show up to Jeff City, especially from the far reaches of the state. If you're a working person or have a child at home, you have to allocate time to request that time off, find childcare. If you don't have a big budget, you got to get meal on your way here. Getting a $30 ticket is unreasonable to want to participate in our democratic system. So thank you.
Thank you for being here. Any questions? All right. Any other witnesses in support of Senate Bill 369? This might set a new record for...
Well, good afternoon, Madam Chair. Heath Clarkston. I would say I'm here on behalf of myself, but I just texted my business partner, Doug Nelson, and he allowed me to go on record for CN Missouri. And we have an office at 235 East High Street, and everybody before me that testified has hit on all my topics. This was one of those events I wanted to retain James Harris and company to represent me, but their prices were a little high, so I had to come up by myself today. But 90 minutes sometimes when we talk at a coffee shop downtown about real complex issues like we deal with here, our client probably shouldn't get a ticket for taking more than 90 minutes. So I'd like to thank the bill sponsor and champion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Any questions? All right. Thanks. Anyone else in support of Senate Bill 369? Please step forward.
Hello, Mark Dalton representing myself on this. I'm here in support of the bill as an individual and as a client of a previous witness that was here, visiting the office here about a half hour, left to go get some lunch, came back about another half hour, came out, had a ticket. So, two 30-minute periods, but I guess they were stretched out. I mean, it, left me with a lot of mental anguish in my ability to read a watch or do simple math up to the number 90. So I am in support of the bill and appreciate Bill's sponsor for this.
Sorry for your suffering. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Any
Appreciate
questions for this witness? All right, seeing none, thank you. Anyone else in support of Senate Bill 369? All right, anyone here for informational purposes only? All right, seeing none, any closing comments?
I normally don't, but I got to say I'm overwhelmed with the support for this bill. So we will be executing on this next Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes the hearing on Senate Bill 369. Up next, Senate Bill.
Go, Tracy, if you can run in, I got to step.
Okay. The next, we will proceed to Senate Bill 522. Bill sponsor, Senator Ben Brown from District 26. Please proceed when you're ready, Senator.
Well, I have to say that's going to be a pretty tough act to follow, but it's an important bill, so I'll find a way to persist nonetheless. So, for the record, my name is Senator Ben Brown from the 26th Senatorial District, and it's my pleasure to present Senate Bill 522. This bill is aimed at protecting small businesses involved in the sale of tobacco products. As with other small businesses, owners take on risk and invest a great deal of time, energy, and financial resources to start and build a company. What this bill does is create a general state preemption on the restriction of these businesses by local governments. Many companies have to market their products across the state, and this bill would provide them a much-needed level of consistency, uniformity, and predictability across the board. More importantly, it will help small business owners that are currently seeing their businesses' value diminish due to unfair ordinances that have the potential to make it nearly impossible to sell to a potential buyer. Excuse me. One example of this is in St. Louis County in 2019. They amended its tobacco licensing ordinance that placed new limitations restricting retailers in certain locations from obtaining a tobacco license. Though it grandfathered in existing tobacco licenses, the ordinance specifically states that when an impacted retailer wants to sell their convenience store, gas station, vape shop, you name it, the right to a license would not transfer over, meaning that the buyer would not be able to obtain a tobacco license of their own. When approached about this issue, I couldn't help reflecting upon my own experience as a small business owner. I purchased a small restaurant at 28 years old, and I worked year after year in the early years, often putting in over 80 hours a week, just dedicating myself to growing this business and increasing its value. For the 6 years I owned the business prior to the pandemic, through a whole lot of very late hours and I guess you could say old-fashioned elbow grease, I was able to grow sales for the business by 10% or more every year, and based on the last valuations we had before the pandemic, had more than doubled the business's value. What's happening to these retailers is no different than if a local government would have come in and said that anyone I sold my restaurant to would not be able to obtain a liquor license. So what do you think that would do to my business's value? Basically, 6 years of work growing this business would essentially be erased. The value of my business, an asset that for years I worked tirelessly to grow, would be demolished. It just doesn't seem right. A business is an asset just like any piece of real estate or any other, and when one purchases an asset, works night and day in the hopes of one day selling it for a profit, I feel that it's not right for the government to come in and undercut them, destroying something that they may have spent decades building, something they may be depending upon for retirement or to provide for their family or as another resource. Small businesses these days are already dealing with record levels of inflation, labor shortages, and other unprecedented challenges. Government should not be creating additional obstacles and actively working against small business owners. Thank you, and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the sponsor? All right, seeing none, thank you. We'll alternate witnesses again. So first up, a witness in support of Senate Bill 522. Please step forward. Yep, and just a reminder to folks, we're still going to do 2-minute limit on the testimony. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, good afternoon. I'm Ron Leone. I'm the Executive Director of the Missouri Petroleum and Convenience Association, which means I represent many of your small business constituents who own and operate gas stations, convenience stores, and truck stops. As you can imagine, many of my members have locations across multiple cities and multiple counties. That's why we support Section 1, which is a general state preemption. And by that general state preemption, my members would have consistency, uniformity, and predictability across the state, which I think all retailers deserve, given the fact that we are out there pursuing the American dream. The second section deals with, as the sponsor said, with the specific St. Louis County issue, and I think it proves why we need the general preemption in the first section as well. But the sponsor did a great job of talking about how they passed an ordinance which said you can't have a tobacco license within 1,000 feet of school property. They grandfathered all existing licenses, but when you sell that grandfathered location, the buyer is not given a tobacco license, thereby reducing the value of those locations by a minimum of 30%. Now, I do want the committee to know that we have been in contact with members of the St. Louis County Council. They have heard our pleas, and as of last week, they did introduce, I think they call it a bill at the county level, to hopefully fix our issue at the county level. That has not been accomplished yet, but we do seem to have some progress in that area. Now, there are two instances, if I have time, Madam Chair, which specifically small minority women-owned businesses that are having drastic implications with the current ordinance. A minority woman owner bought the business not knowing that she couldn't get a tobacco license, and she is unable to make the numbers work unless the ordinance is changed. A second one is a minority woman owner wants to sell to her store manager, and of course she's not willing to buy that, of course, if he can't get the tobacco license. So I know my time is probably short. I want to thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity, and especially thank the sponsor for taking on this very important issue for my members. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for this witness? I have a quick question. The first example you gave, is that in St. Louis County?
Yes, both of those are in St. Louis County,
okay.
Supplied by one of my members. That's how I know about it. She would have been here to testify, but she just couldn't make it.
That's right. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yep. Next up, witness in opposition to Senate Bill 522.
Good afternoon. My name is Katie Towns, and I'm the director of the Springfield Greene County Health Department on behalf of the city of Springfield. Back in 2019, we passed a local Tobacco 21 ordinance in reaction to the fact that we had alarming increases of youth tobacco rates on them initiating use of electronic cigarettes. And the aim of that ordinance was to decrease youth from that initiation, because we know that 96% of people who end up lifelong tobacco users start before the age of 21. The health department worked collaboratively with many organizations throughout our community to do that, and we've been very successful in decreasing the rate of youth over the past 3 years since that has been in effect. We just would like to ask for our ability to continue to maintain that Tobacco 21 ordinance locally. And in addition, we do provide additional resources from our department to enforce that ordinance. So we'd also like to maintain the ability to provide that enforcement as well. I'd be glad to take any questions.
Thank you for being here. Any questions for this witness? All right, thanks. All right, next up, witness in support of Senate Bill 522.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Jake Silverman. I'm here on behalf of Missouri Smoke Free. We are here to testify in support of Senate Bill 522. We see this bill as a way to protect small businesses. Missouri Smoke Free is a group of vape shop owners throughout the state. This preemption would actually be able to, provide some security and uniformity throughout the state. These shop owners have spent a lot of time, energy, and their own financial resources to start these small businesses. They just want that security to make sure that their business is not going to go under with some sort of ordinance that would drastically harm them. There are some, there's maneuverability that we are interested in, but for all intents and purposes, we support 522.
Thank you.
And I'm here to answer any questions.
All right. Seeing no questions, thank you for being here. Up next, opposition to Senate Bill 522. Please step forward.
Emily Kalmer, American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network. On behalf of our organization, I want to thank you for allowing us to express our opposition to Senate Bill 522. We advocate at all levels of government for policies that will prevent cancer at the local level, for instance, with comprehensive local smoke-free laws and ordinances that are proven policies that have contributed to the overall reduction in cancer deaths in recent years. Numerous communities in Missouri have worked with their local officials through the existing local public health authority to adopt these life-saving measures. Many more local communities are working on things right now. Tobacco use remains the #1 preventable cause of death. Despite this, the tobacco industry, and this is documented if you'd like to see where, has developed as one of its chief legislative strategies the removal of local authority to regulate tobacco. In recent years, the industry has been employing this strategy in a number of other states to preempt local authority, as that's where we have been able to work on some of these issues. Missouri continues to trail the country in the adoption of proven tobacco policies, and as an organization, we oppose efforts to preempt local authority on this. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Any questions? Seeing none, up next, witness in support of Senate Bill 522. Please step forward. All right, seeing no more supportive witnesses, any more opposition to Senate Bill 522?
Good afternoon. I'm Stan Cowan. I've had 45 years experience in public health, 33 with the State Health Department and 12 with the University of Missouri School of Medicine in Columbia, the last 18 of which, including the School of Medicine, working on tobacco policy issues. As mentioned by Ms. Kalmer, it has been the industry's priority here to preempt local authority. We have seen with, as Ms. Towns said in Springfield, good compliance, better compliance with tobacco retailers when local T21 ordinances have passed and are enforced. I have data here that I will attach and I urge you to look at, comparing T21 cities a year before, a year after, and then Missouri for the same time period on what the retailer compliance rates have been. They pay attention when T21 is locally enforced. It is true that the leading causes of death in Missouri are heart disease, cancer, stroke, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and the common risk factor for all of them is tobacco use. It is the only consumer product that, when used exactly as intended by the manufacturers and distributors, will kill half of its consumers. And it's not a sudden event there. It's a long, agonizing event. And having lost family members to it, I just don't wish that on anyone. We try to prevent where we can. At the time that I left the State Health Department and began working for the university, I noted a remarkable event in New York City, and I'll have the data here for you too. But the city's teen smoking rate dropped by more than half in just 6 years, from about 18% to about 8%, a rate 2/3 lower than the national teen smoking rate. And also remarkable, the adult smoking rates during that same time period declined from 22% to 17%. Meanwhile, Missouri adult smoking rates during that same time period plateaued. It's about 25%. What's the difference? They had active local ordinances in place. And you're looking at me like I'm
you've hit your time limit. So, yep.
Please read the testimony.
Oh, you will. You're going to leave that behind.
I
That would
will.
be helpful.
Thank you.
Any questions for this witness? All right, seeing none, thank you for being here, and feel free to leave that. We'll make sure folks get copies.
It's something getting B70, you know.
It's a tight fit in here. All right, anyone else in support of Senate Bill 522? Please step forward. All right, any others in opposition to Senate Bill 522?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Richard Sheets with the Missouri Municipal League, and we do have concerns with Senate Bill 522, and it really deals with issuing the permits. I really can't speak for the county of St. Louis. That's something that's beyond who I represent. But our cities they don't want to discourage businesses. So, the implication that cities are trying to stop local businesses and small businesses, and that's just contrary to our community goals and what cities want to make their cities better. And many of the business licenses cities issue, they are transferable. I've looked at many, and the transferability is pretty common. Where there's a problem is if the person who's receiving the new license can't get a state sales tax license or something like that wouldn't allow them to comply with the law. But my experience is these licenses are transferable when everything is correct. I'll try to answer any questions if I can.
Any questions for this witness? All right, seeing none, thank you for being here. Next up, another opposition witness.
Madam Chair, Shannon Cooper today representing the City of Kansas City and the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce. We just want to go on record in opposition to the legislation for reasons stated previously. Be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Don't see any questions. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Next up, more opposition to Senate Bill 522.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Thanks for your time. My name is Laura Turner with the American Lung Association, and we are testifying in opposition of this bill. Our organization is committed to helping educate, intervene, and prevent the use of tobacco and nicotine by the next generation. And in Missouri, 51% of high schoolers and 14% of middle school students report ever having used an electronic vapor product. So that's a little context here of what we're trying to fight. The American Lung Association is very concerned about this bill. We think it would undermine local tobacco control efforts to protect our youth from tobacco, alternative nicotine products, and vapor products. Cities and counties should be able to govern aspects such as how many tobacco retailers can operate in a given area and allow buffer zones between tobacco retailers and schools or playgrounds. Local governments are closest to the residents of Missouri, and they're often better able to assess whether additional restrictions on tobacco sales are needed in the community to protect kids from tobacco. And it also allows them to conduct compliance checks against sales of tobacco products to minors in the local communities. The preemption in this bill would undermine local tobacco control efforts and give the tobacco industry free rein to prey upon our young people. So we strongly urge the committee to oppose SB522 and support local control, allowing our local governments to work at the community level to curb the epidemic of youth tobacco addiction. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you. Opposition to 522, please step forward.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee, staff. Trent Watson, registered lobbyist here on behalf of the American Heart Association, would like to go on record in opposition. I think you've heard the points made by everyone. I think one point I do want to make, Section 1 of this bill, if it goes away, the preemption, all the enforcement goes away, because all this enforcement is done at the local level. It's not a state, we don't have a state tobacco regulation that they go around and do the enforcement. That all happens at the local level. And I was pleased to hear about the for Section 2 of that they are working with St. Louis County, because I also do have an issue with taking a couple examples from St. Louis County and then applying a law across the state. in reaction to it when they should really be working with that local county council to get this figured out. Happy to answer any questions.
All right. Seeing no questions, thank you for being here. Any more opponents to Senate Bill 522? All right. Seeing none. Anyone here for informational purposes only for Senate Bill 522? All right. Seeing none. That concludes the hearing on Senate Bill 522. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Senator.
Yeah, and it's something I neglected to mention in my presentation, and it was a point that was brought up by several of the opponents. I have a list here. It outlines a number of municipalities, counties that all have their own T21 laws in effect, and it was brought to my attention that this bill is currently written would undermine those. That is certainly not the intent here. My aim is to stop predatory and discriminatory practices against a specific kind of business. It's not my intent to undermine any of these laws, and I'm happy to work with any interested parties to put in some language to clarify that, to ensure that if a municipality wants to require an age of 21, I have no issue with that whatsoever, and I'm sure that we can navigate this in a way to where we can both protect businesses and ensure that people can put in the protections they need to preserve public health.
Very good. Thank you for that. All right, now we are concluding the hearing for Senate Bill 522. Next up, we will have the hearing for Senate Bill 573, the senator from St. Charles County, District 2.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, I'm Nick Schroer from Senate District 2 in St. Charles County, presenting Senate Bill 573. And Madam Chair, I think that you and I have dealt with many of these liquor bills when we were in the House and general laws, and this is several of them put together. Represent some of the basic fixes on regulation and interpretations of current state law. It addresses three main parts. First, the current law does not permit for the donation of distilled spirits to charity organizations. It allows for all other types of brandy, beer, wines, just not distilled spirits, and this bill would allow them. That portion, I believe, has passed in both respective chambers in the past, just not on the same exact bill. Secondly, alcohol and tobacco control has been disallowing multiple buildings under a single manufacturing license for small businesses, while treating large manufacturers a little bit differently, allowing them to have many buildings as they want under a single manufacturer's license. For instance, AB and Boulevard all have multiple buildings that they operate in and only have one manufacturing license, yet the interpretation of the department on small distillers is not consistent with that. So small distillers would absolutely have to have a license for each building. This bill addresses that issue as well. And finally, the close proximity language is the phrase that statutes used by ATC to determine permitted affiliated businesses for alcohol manufacturers. This phrase is not defined and changes based on who is asking and who is responding to it. This bill defines it strictly by creating a black and white measurement the same distance as how the feds interpret affiliated licenses, 10 miles. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
The bill sponsor. Right. Seeing none, we'll alternate again. So first up, a witness in support of Senate Bill 573. Please step forward. And have you completed a witness form? Awesome, very good. Please leave that behind and go ahead and proceed. Is the microphone on?
Sure is.
Very good, thank you.
My name is Andy Rieger. I operate a distillery in Kansas City. We're in an opportunity zone, and we've invested over $30 million there. Over the last 4 years, I've dealt with personally a lot of issues with some of these specific issues with ATC and trying to get them to rationalize their justification along the way. Before we actually got to this, we worked with the Missouri wholesalers to ensure that what we were going to put forward was not objectionable to them. Hopefully, we do not have any of that today. As you look at each of these three components, the first one, donation of distilled spirits, fairly self-explanatory, shouldn't have any sort of issues there. The second one, having multiple buildings under a single manufacturer's license. What that means is that we just purchased another property in an opportunity zone for $1.4 million, began a $1.5 million renovation, all to have the liquor control tell us that we needed to apply for an entirely new permit under an entirely new reporting system. And anytime we move product back and forth between our buildings, which is less than 1,000 feet apart, we have to make that a reportable event and keep track of completely separate set of data. The city does not require that. The county does not require that, nor is that how the federal government operates. That is unique to the state of Missouri, and that is a new interpretation. As it was said by the senator, this is something that the big guys don't have to deal with. And so this is a very odd thing to be forcing this on small businesses. Even some small businesses have had some of the supervisors' agents there, and they've had multiple buildings, and they have said nothing about it. But when someone wants to be honest and ask how to go about it, they want to try to hammer. The last one is on close proximity. Close proximity, as it was said, is not defined, and it's how the government uses, or the ATC uses, measuring tool for putting affiliated businesses with your manufacturer's license. This is already technically a non-issue, because right now you can have as many affiliated licenses as you want from a retail standpoint. You just have to have a dummy manufacturer's license to go with it. And so you have to start a whole new manufacturer's license that is completely unnecessary. The federal government does not require it, but because the state requires it, you then have to go get a dummy manufacturer's license from the federal government. You have to get a building then permitted as if it is a manufacturer. You have to get it bonded as if it's a manufacturer, and you have to go through a whole bunch of paperwork and zero reportings just in order to expand your business in general. So these three things here are all allowed in some way, shape, or form. And so they really should not be objectable in that regard. But I would also like to say that today is my 8th anniversary, and my wife asked me what we wanted to do to celebrate. I said, let's go to Jeff City together.
Wow.
So she's a champion.
You really know how to wow someone.
I know. I figured, 10 years is a big year. 8 years is going to be a little bit different for her.
Well, thank you for spending your anniversary with us. Are there any questions for this witness? Up. Proceed.
Happy anniversary.
Oh, thank you.
Happy anniversary. If no one has tried their product, I highly recommend it.
Thank you.
So you purchased a nearby building.
Yes.
And explain to me what you're doing there.
So we're just expanding our manufacturer's license. So rather than getting to start in 100,000 square feet, we actually started in 15,000 square feet when I was the first employee. Now we have 120 employees, so you have to keep expanding as we go. We weren't fortunate enough to be able to buy 120,000 square feet from the get-go.
Yeah. Okay. Have you had any odd treatment with ATC? Any unfair, odd you'd like to share?
So we have, we're sort of been the puppet a little bit. We actually dealt with, starting in 2018, we were cited for violations that there was no proof on, that another distillery in the Kansas City area was trying to throw our way to try to get us in trouble because of our trajectory and how we were doing so well. We were initially tried to be fined $10,000. The Attorney General's office stepped in, said there was nothing there. ATC wanted to keep going. The same distillery then filed another frivolous complaint against us. ATC tried to fine us $50,000. Then they said they would wipe it away with probation, and then just wiped it away altogether when the Attorney General's office stepped in again. And then there have been a few others, but we recently went to the Administrative Hearing Commission, got all of them nullified. Then the ATC appealed it, and then the appeal they lost as well in a sweeping decision there. And so the state actually is in the process of reimbursing us for a six-figure sum for defending ourselves when the Attorney General's office all along was trying to make it to where it wasn't going to occur. And so I sat in the governor's office back in September. And 4 months later, whether it was related or not, the supervisor of the ATC was dismissed. Wow. So a lot of this is cutting the red tape that exists, but this is the lowest of hanging fruit that I've experienced over the last 4 years that makes no business sense for a small business, no sense for a small business that is trying to grow in the state of Missouri, and no sense for a state that prides itself on being pro-business.
Well, and I'm sorry that you've had to go through that, and so that my colleagues know this is a business that started off very small, just you.
Just me.
And is now in a kind of a, I don't want to say blighted, but a blighted part of the city, and it's turning it around. And so I encourage you to come and drink and then go to Knuckleheads and watch a good show.
I appreciate that.
Just briefly, I wanted to second my colleague's motion. Rarely do you have this much bipartisanship, but this is probably one of the best whiskeys in Missouri. So, and it's a
probably, Senator.
Well, I would say, look, I've got some people in the Ozark industry coming up tomorrow with some whiskeys from Defiance and Augusta. So I would say it's in the top 3 of best spirits.
We'll take it.
In the state of Missouri. But it's appropriate because dealing with these bureaucrats, you need a good whiskey to just relax at the end of the day. But yeah, I do second my colleague's motion. This is some darn good whiskey, and thanks for coming down today.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you all.
All right.
We'll celebrate your anniversary. Yeah. Cheers.
All right. Opponents to Senate Bill 573. First opponents, please step forward. I don't see anybody. Any more witnesses in support of Senate Bill 573? All right, seeing none. Any witnesses for informational purposes only?
Madam Chair, Brad Bates with the Missouri Beer Wholesalers Association. First, I would have hoped Andy would have been proud enough of his product to bring some along for sampling purposes. And I'd also like to wish him a happy anniversary. I hope he'll probably end up with a parking ticket for the trip. So hopefully we'll get that rectified if this shouldn't pass. But we are neutral. We want to thank the senator for the process that he's gone through with this. The only thing that we would like to raise just a concern with is just the fiscal note in that ATC is our governing agency. And although there may be some blips along the way, by large and far, they are a very good agency for us. Our products that we have aren't toothpaste or deodorant, so they do need to be regulated. It is very important. And any time that their revenues are going to dip because of something, we are concerned, because they are understaffed and underfunded if you think of how few of employees they have versus how many people and businesses they have to keep track of. So that is our only concern. We wish Mr. Rieger well, and we thank you for allowing us to testify for informational purposes, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
You raise a good point. Any questions for this witness? All right, seeing none, thank you for being here. Any more witnesses for informational purposes only? All right, seeing none, that Senator, would you like to make any closing comments?
Happy anniversary again.
All right, that concludes the hearing for Senate Bill 573. Up next, we will hear House Committee Sub for House Bills 971 and 970. Representative, please proceed, and thank you for being so patient.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. My name is Melanie Stinnett, State Representative from District 133 in Springfield, Greene County, and I'm here to present House Committee Substitute for House Bills 971 and 970. House Bill 970 takes a look at the Ticket to Work Health Assurance Program. This is a program that's already in place, but this provides adjustments that help to increase the amount of income that individuals with disabilities can make without losing their medical benefits. These individuals with disabilities have medical benefits that cover things like personal care assistance that help them get up and out of bed and to work. And so without those services, they wouldn't be able to go to work. So it's a very important component of their health care that is costly to cover in the private market. Most private insurance companies don't cover this service. So if they lose that through our state plan, then that's really challenging for them. Along with the changes in the income guidelines for individuals with disabilities, it also has a disregard for their retirement accounts so that they can save funds for their retirement, and disregards the first $50,000 of their spouse's income. This is important. Many individuals with disabilities that I spoke with either avoid marrying because they don't want to lose those benefits, or they have sometimes even considered getting divorced so that they don't lose those benefits. So really important that we protect marriage in that way for individuals with disabilities. This legislation allows individuals with disabilities to get advanced education, to work in high-demand positions in science, technology, healthcare, and many other high-demand fields where their disability can be accommodated and their talents can be optimized. This bill presents a partial workforce solution for our state by helping these individuals with disabilities keep the necessary Medicaid benefits that they require, but also allowing them to work more. The other portion of this bill, House Bill 971, is the Missouri Employment First Act. It aligns with the governor's executive order from 2019 that sets us up as a model employer in our state for individuals with disabilities. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you for being here. Any questions for this witness? And I see it passed out of the House unanimously, which
It
is
did.
pretty impressive. We don't see that.
151 to nothing. Yes.
Congratulations
Well supported.
on that.
Thank you.
No, that's part of the reason why I highlighted it.
Yeah,
It's pretty
yeah.
unusual. So congratulations on
Thank
your first
you.
year.
Appreciate
Are there
that.
any witnesses here today in support of House Bills 971 and 970?
Good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. My name is Jackie Barget, registered lobbyist here on behalf of MARF, which is the statewide trade association for service providers for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We knew there was a softball game going on tonight, so a lot of our individuals that we serve send their regards, and I think the vote that this made it out of the House kind of speaks for itself, the overwhelming support of it. A lot of our members have missions that pertain to reducing barriers for individuals with disabilities and their ability to live and work in the community, and this does just that.
Thank you. Any questions for this witness? All right, seeing none, thank you. Next up, is there anyone in opposition to House Bills 971 and 970? I would hope not. All right, more witnesses in support. Please step forward.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Madam Chair, members of the committee, Lynn Schlosser. I'm here today on behalf of Missouri Association for Sheltered Workshop Managers. We'd like to go on the record in support of this legislation. We care to support all legislation that positively impacts those people with disabilities in our state. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, thanks for being here. Up next in support, please step forward.
I'm not sure I've got to say Madam Chair to you before. It's very exciting. Madam Chair and members of the committee, Jeanette Mott Oxford here for Paraquad. Several, you'll be hearing independently from some of the other independent living centers in our state who couldn't be here today. But we support this bill, and we're very thankful to Representative Stinnett for supporting it, for bringing it forward. I think we all agree that we don't want to punish work or marriage, and the rules as they're set up just now do that. The main reason that it does it is that the federal government does not measure poverty accurately. They use a formula that was true in the 1950s and 60s, is no longer true, and they don't have the courage to update that so that we address economic realities with our poverty measurements, and that causes a myriad of problems, but especially for people with disabilities who have to decide to pull back on their work hours sometime or not to marry in order to protect themselves. So we support this bill. When I was a state representative from 2005 to 2012, we almost passed this. Chuck Portwood, a chiropractor who was a Republican, sponsored it. It passed by votes very similar to what Representative Stinnett was able to gain in 2005, 6, and 7. It passed the Senate at least one of those years too, but you know how the end of session is, and things bogged down and it didn't make it. And with term limits, you lose your champion, and sometimes you lose your momentum. And Paraquad went through some changes and didn't have as strong an advocacy department for a while. Now they have a strong one because I am there. So we are doing our best to finally carry this thing across the finish line. Sometimes it takes 17 years, and we hope that you'll make this the year. And I welcome any questions that you might have.
Yep, go ahead.
I understand about those long years. I have one that's about to hit 25, but probably after session, can we talk? I would love to learn the history of kind of why these cliffs are in so many of these social programs and why we can't put our heads together. It's bipartisan. This is ridiculous. Let's fix it.
Yes. Yeah, one of the bills on the House side has fixes multiple of them, and her language has been added to it, House Bill 719. So I think people see the similarities between the other cliffs, the SNAP cliffs, the subsidized child care cliffs, et cetera, that we ought to just tell the truth about what it costs to live, you know? Yeah.
Well said. All right. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Next up,
and we're going to rearrange the furniture a little bit.
I know. This room is really too crowded.
Well,
My
make sure
apologies.
that everybody can get up here.
Yeah. We can probably get the mic over to the edge too, which would make it easier, I think. All right, there you go. Yeah.
we in information purposes?
We're still in support. Are there any more witnesses in support of House Bills 970 and 971? All right, one more, and then we'll switch to informational purposes only. So thank you.
I'll be brief. Katie Gamble here on behalf of the Missouri Association of County Developmental Disability Services, and we want to go on record in support of the legislation for all of the great reasons previously mentioned.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Seeing no questions, thank you for being here. Next, we will switch to witnesses for informational purposes only.
Thank you, Madam Chair and distinguished committee. I do want to say that these bills are so important that I am 100% sure I have a ticket on my car because I didn't want to go move the car. So really appreciate the opportunity to come today and provide information. My name is Vicki Davidson. I'm the Executive Director for the Missouri Developmental Disabilities Council, and we are a body that is primarily of individuals with disabilities as well as parents, in addition to some state agencies. And House Bills 970 and 971 would create a coordinated system that removes barriers for people with disabilities by giving them and their families every opportunity to be aware of and gain competitive employment. I do want to provide a couple of stats for informational purposes. The employment rate for people with disabilities of working age was 36.1% in 2018, and for people without disabilities, the employment rate was 81.7%. So there's a big disparity between people with disabilities working and individuals without disabilities working, and it's not for the lack of people wanting to work. It's the position of the council that everyone who identifies work as a goal is employable with the right opportunities and support, and therefore people with disabilities have the right to and should receive those supports and reasonable accommodations to work. I will move down to the competitive portion of the bill would create pathways out of systemic poverty. People with disabilities are generally in poverty, and in 2018, the American Community Survey said that the poverty rate for people with cognitive disabilities was 33.8%, while the poverty rate for Missourians without a disability is 9.7%. Again, great disparities there. So the burden of poverty really falls on people with disabilities, and these bills will allow them to work themselves out of poverty, but also release some of the state and federal resources that are used because they are not working at this time. So really thank you for the opportunity today.
Thank you so much for being here. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none. All right, next up, more witnesses in support for informational purposes only. Please come on up.
Good afternoon. My name is Rachel Baskerville. I am a current council member for Missouri Developmental Disabilities Council, but as you can see, I am also a self-advocate, so this is for informational purposes. I will try to keep it that way, but if my advocacy comes out, I'm very sorry. Okay. There are provisions of the bill that remove some disproportionate barriers for people with disabilities seeking employment and, as stated before, leading healthier and higher quality lives. The ability of people to save for retirement, consider marriage, and retain access to personal care assistance services and non-emergency medical transportation will serve to create more opportunities for people with disabilities to engage in this program that provides important protections. Additionally, excluding retirement accounts from asset limit calculations slides another barrier out of the way for people who desire to utilize this program. Every financial advisor or resource about retirement stress the importance of saving the retirement as early as possible. This program meant to provide a safeguard as people transition to employment is potentially penalizing participants' futures financial security. They are doing the same work alongside non-disabled peers, but being denied crucial years of saving for retirement as they would like. People with disabilities have to navigate complex systems every day to meet their basic needs. Provisions in this bill would serve to alleviate some of the complexity and lead to clearer pathways to work independence, health, and personal happiness. It is the position of the council that this committee considers some of the barriers removed by the bill. Now, if I'm allowed, I'm going to take off my council hat and talk to you as an advocate, because I like to represent both. Luckily, Vicky understands this. This bill is very important to me just because I'm currently engaged. So I'm not on any kind of special benefits or anything like that, but because of not the severity of my disability, because it doesn't make me ill, but not knowing what's going to happen in the future, I don't want to risk not being able to qualify for certain benefits because of my spouse's income. Mind you, this is the first step because it is allowing more of his income to be looked at and put aside, so to speak, and not looked at, so it would help me. But that's something that people with disabilities, like we've said, we shouldn't have to fight for basic privilege rights to be able to marry someone or find a job. We should be able to have both. Thank you.
Well said. Any questions for this witness? Thank you so much for being here. All right, any more witnesses for informational purposes only for House Bills 971 and 970? All right, seeing none, would you like to make any closing comments? Thank you for being here. That concludes the hearing for House Bills 971 and 970. Seeing no further business coming before the committee, I now make a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.